This video is focused around setting, language, imagery, and structure, and will be the last of this summer session. You might review the videos, particularly this coming weekend as you begin to revise your story drafts. I'll be returning your drafts with critique a week from today. Some of you have asked exactly what I'm looking for, and I hope I've been clear that all the stories in the anthology 3030 are stories that I consider to be models of excellent short story writing. If you apply the elements of fiction to your own exercises and stories, you'll do well in the class. So, on to this last review of the elements. Setting, or time and place, gives us a way to visualize a story. By having a literal context for plot, character, and dialogue, we can find meaning between an action and when and where it occurs. Setting provides an immediate signpost, an introduction to the world of each story, and metaphorical possibility. For example, to fully understand Reginald McKnight's The Kind of Light That Shines on Texas, we need to know that it takes place in a southwestern school struggling with integration during a particular period in history. Notice how Tim O'Brien's The Things They Carried uses setting literally to show the landscape of the war and metaphorically to show the soldiers' emotions. Setting also helps create atmosphere, which is the mood of a story and its emotional impact on us. Atmosphere emerges from the story's situations and locations. For instance, the setting and situation of Jhumpa Lahiri's Interpreter of Maladies, an Indian-American family visiting ruins in India as tourists, hot weather, and continuous traveling, creates an atmosphere of restlessness and isolation, which reflects Mrs. Das's sense of loss and not belonging there. At the foundation of every story is its language, how it makes use of diction, imagery, metaphors, symbolism, irony, and tone. Each word in a story has a denotative and connotative effect. Consider the title of Jamaica Kincaid's Girl. It literally denotes the girl whom the mother is addressing. At the same time, the word connotes the very idea of girlhood and what it means to be a girl. The sentence structure of the story is also significant. Almost the entire story is one long sentence, which generates tension and this sense of endless demand. Writers may draw on poetic elements such as lyricism and rhythm to generate emotional intensity, as we see in Sandra Cisneros' The House on Mango Street, and also Rick Moody's Boys. Writers also rely on the power of descriptive language to depict scenes and characters, as well as to create depth of emotion, voice, and meaning, as seen in this example from Stuart Dybek's We Didn't. We didn't in your mother's Buick 8, where a rosary twined the rearview mirror like a beaded black snake with silver cruciform fangs. Description involves the vivid, precise use of imagery to describe what characters, places, and landscapes look like. Images can set up a literal vision of the story's world via verisimilitude, the use of real-life details to ground the story in a sense of reality. It also gives us a way to understand the story on a non-literal level. When we reread and analyze a story, we see how every concrete image can become a metaphor, a description of an object, person, or moment, through terms of comparison. Metaphors are one example of figurative language, which also includes personification, the description of an inanimate object through terms, and similes, as seen in Louise Erdrich's Sainte Marie. Her fingers were like a bundle of broom straws. Her eye sockets were two deep, lashless hollows in a taut skull. Through this harsh imagery, we see how the narrator perceives Sister Leopolda, both visually and emotionally. Like metaphors, symbols rely on a comparison between two different things, but symbols use a concrete object to represent an idea or feeling. Take a look, for instance, at how Charles Baxter and Anne Beattie use snow as a symbol in their respective stories, both titled Snow. In Baxter's story, snow is connected to a moment of childhood awareness and responsibility, whereas in Beattie's story, snow is connected to memories of a romantic relationship. To some extent, both stories use snow as a symbol of temporality and stillness, but the resulting effects, meanings, and styles are quite different. This is not to say, however, that stories must revolve around one singular symbol or meaning or message. Symbols are just one aspect of language used to create character, voice, and conflict, and to create another layer of a story, another way to look at it. Another technique of language is irony, which points out the gap between what is anticipated or expected and what actually happens or is revealed. A note of surprise, bittersweetness, or humor emerges when we, or the characters, realize that a reversal has occurred. Thinking of ZZ Packer's Every Tongue Shall Confess, look at the use of irony that points out moments of hypocrisy, such as Deacon Julian's behavior in the main character's church. Language, style, and point of view all combine to establish tone, the overall feeling the narrator has toward the characters, events, setting, even the reader. The impact of a word often relies on its circumstances. Whether you read the statement, "You're a genius," as sincere or sarcastic depends on its context. The desperate tone in Lydia Davis's story is established through the rapid succession and accumulation of sentences filled with "I," detailing all the characters' obsessive actions. Now, just a few words about structure to close this video. Every story has a particular structure or organization or form, the way in which the narrative develops. Some stories move in a traditional linear chronology. Others deliberately skew time, jumping from moment to moment, as in Tim O'Brien's The Things They Carried, which employs repetition to depict the soldiers' daily lives of isolation, fear, and uncertainty, and this continuing marching that they do through Vietnam. This story also uses segmentation and section breaks to create transitions and signify a jump in narration or time period. A great story in the anthology, Alexander Hemond's A Coin, also uses segmentation to suggest fragmentation of memory and experience. The structure of a story, whether traditional, involving a linear sense of time and plot, or non-traditional, helps us understand a story on its own terms. For as readers, we follow the path, the structure of each story, and see where it takes us and what we can uncover. When a story jumps into a flashback or memory, we follow along, knowing we're going to find out something necessary about the background of the story. When we see a section break, we take a breath and pause, as the page is telling us to do. When we encounter a long paragraph filled with long sentences, we read on breathlessly, as in Stuart Dybek's We Didn't. Along the way, all the elements of short story writing unfold, and the process of reading becomes a process of gathering together the strands of narrative, language, and ideas. Thanks for watching these videos. Good luck with your stories. I look forward to reading them.